What's going on YouTube? This is yours truly, Dre the Plug, coming at you live with some more technical heat. In this video specifically, it's going to be a different one. You know, we just got off of work. We both work at General Motors, both electrical engineers, black engineers. We're about to get into some more technical heat. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, I kind of want to give myself a little quick intro before we got started here. My name is Carl Chapman. I am an electrical engineer, graduated from Oakland University. Let's go. And I currently work at General Motors here in Michigan. Actually, when I'm not engineering as well, I also love to be an entrepreneur. So I love to go, help people with their startups. I love to look into different concepts for myself, and ideally, I would love to start my own tech startup as well to lead the world in robotics, prosthetics, and electronics.
All right, Carl, so why did you decide to, choose the best major in the whole world, electrical engineering? What made you want to take the best route that you could possibly do in engineering?
Well, it's actually funny because even as a kid, I wanted to build an Ironman suit, right? So as I got older, I found out that the two degrees that really could help you out with that would be either biomedical engineering or electrical engineering. But if you can think of an Ironman suit, right, you have to think of there's circuits, there's coding, there's all kinds of CAD work, and I actually got to learn a lot more of that in my electrical engineering degree, the best degree, than through my biomedical engineering degree. So due to that, I'm still chasing those dreams of building that Ironman suit, which actually, as you guys heard before, is going to be a part of that startup that I do.
Okay, Carl, so what do you feel is the biggest benefit when it comes down to being an electrical engineer?
I think the biggest benefit is the confidence you gain. And the reason why I say that is if you're a mechanical engineer, you work a lot with things like friction, heat, temperature, the density of the metals, things like that. That's a lot of stuff that you can actually feel, right? Density kind of comes with like weight. But when it comes down to like electrical engineering, a lot of stuff we work with, it's more so invisible, the electrons we're working with. And a lot of the stuff that we do feel is the aftermath of the electrons moving through said substance. So once you get confident with working with something that you can't see, right, the theory behind everything, makes it a lot easier to work with things that you can see. So because of that, I think that the confidence that you gain from saying, okay, you know what, I know how to analyze this stuff and put it together really helps you out, and there's a huge benefit for a lot of things, not just engineering related.
Yeah, definitely. People always ask me like, yo, Andre, is electrical engineering hard? And I'm like, it's hard when you think about how to put stuff together, right? Once you have that clear understanding of the power and the ground and how things are going to turn on and turn off, it's extremely simple. So many times where I could literally sit back and come up with a whole design or a whole project to create in my head because I know exactly what's going to happen once I flip that switch and what to turn on, what to place in a certain spot, what to give like a certain delay. But basically, like I said, like once you understand what's going on with the electricity without physically seeing it, then it becomes easy. But yeah, in the beginning, it's real difficult because you don't have a clue what's going on. You don't physically get to see electricity.
Yep. The one thing they always told was you don't know what you don't know. And so luckily as an electrical engineer, right, sometimes we get to observe and see things and learn about things that maybe other aspects don't of engineering, like the fact that there is electrons, right, like electromagnetic fields, right, like that's kind of stuff that a lot of people don't even really think about because they just don't know about it. So I think that for us, it gives us a little bit more insight to look into more things, kind of like an onion with layers, right? Like a lot of disciplines kind of stop at the first two layers, but with electrical engineering, you get to go down to those lower layers, which helps you overall understand how the thing works in general.
All right, so what's something that you did not expect jumping into electrical engineering?
So I'll be honest with you, jumping electrical engineering, the thing that I did not expect is there's always this stigma of engineers being socially awkward, right? And being hard to talk to. So you kind of hear that all the way through college, right? And then when you get into the workforce, a lot of people are just like Andre and myself, where it's just, on the side, we love to game. We love to go hang out, maybe go to the mall, walk around. And so they paint this picture of us engineers as people who stay in our parents' basements and stuff, and the traditional stereotype. But then when you go out and you meet them, you're like, wow, this person is just like I am. And to me, that's a huge thing because it makes the environment a lot less scary, once you get into it.
All right, so what made you, jump into taking the entrepreneur route, but more specifically the startup route?
So starting from the technical perspective of it, kind of going back to that Ironman suit there, right? Everything about Ironman suit is a giant prosthetic body. And as I look at the environment and society today for prosthetics, it's a very saturated market, but it seems like it's still a very expensive market. And so my goal is to try to bring as much of the latest technology, right, latest innovation to prosthetics as possible, but also making it affordable. Because as I can see from around me, there's a bunch of people like veterans, for example, who have paid the ultimate cost some of them being their limbs, right? And when they come back to America, for example, they can't afford, or they have a hard time getting some of these limbs. So I would love to be able to take the opportunity to give back to veterans, for example, who took the time, to dedicate their lives and dedicate their resources, like the time they lost with their loved ones, right? If I can give a little bit back to them, that'd be awesome. But also from the social aspect, right, is I'm seeing and I'm hearing a lot of the millennials and the other generations around me, and it seems like a lot of them are looking for a change, right, in today's society. So a lot of them are looking for a different environment, right? They're looking for something that they can feel like they belong, that they can be motivated in. And I thought to myself, I can hear what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. I understand where you're coming from. So who better to help create and foster an environment for those who are looking for that than someone who is actually a part of it, can understand where they're coming from.
All right, so what's your most exciting project at General Motors? You've been there longer than me.
All right, so I think the most exciting I've worked on so far actually is the C8 Corvette, guys. I got the chance to see the Corvette way back when we had it under wraps, right? So we couldn't talk too much about it. And I got a lot of opportunities to be inside the car as I was working on the coding, the talking between all different modules and all the different integration aspects of it. Now, the coolest part about that actually was I remember calling Andre up one day and I was like, yo, let's go grab lunch. He's like, all right, where are we gonna meet up at? I said, be outside this door at this time. Little did Andre actually, I pulled up in the C8, picked him up in it. I wish you guys could saw your boy's face, man. He was so excited, man.
And it wasn't even that big of a deal.
Come on, man, come on.
Oh, another C8, it ain't.
Cool. You see him from time to time, But now I'm actually really excited. Excited to work on that new Hummer, guys. The Hummer is something that is going to be amazing, right? The C8's amazing. Hummer is amazing. They're in 2 different lanes. The Hummer now is 0 to 60 in approximately 3 seconds, right? 1,000 horsepower. First fully electric super truck. Come on, guys. You guys, this is going to be super exciting, right? If you guys haven't got a chance to check that out yet, please check that out. And then on top of that, we have a couple of future projects coming up. Can't talk too much about it myself, but we do have the CES Keynote that came out this year, 2021 for it. Guys, please go check that out. There's some crazy things coming along the way. And I know that if you guys are even a fraction excited as we are, Andre and I, it's going to be crazy.
All right, Carl, so what's some things that you would like to change, over the course of your whole entire career from start to finish? What's some things, or what's something you would just go back in time and tell the older Carl jumping into college, don't do this or do that?
So the one thing I would recommend to anyone watching this, and it doesn't matter what part of life you're in right now, right? Whether you're high school, you're college, you started your career, is I would say be more involved, right? So the school that I went to is more of a commuter school. And I remember, from freshman all the way to junior year, right? I would always just drive to school, drive home, right? And I always felt like I was not able to get the college experience at that school. And then I remember my senior year, I was like, you know what? Let me look at some of the stuff they have posted. Let me go to some of these events. Let me go to some of these groups, right? Some of these social clubs. And the funny thing is that was the best time of my life, right? And I say that to tell you guys, go outside your comfort zone, guys. Go to those different groups, right? Go to those different events. I know GM from time to time does the volunteering events for community outreach programs, right? And some of that stuff is some of the coolest stuff ever because it shows you a whole different side of things, right? It gives you a whole new perspective that maybe you didn't have before. And on top of that, you get to meet some really cool people, right? Some people that maybe they're going to be your lifetime friends, right? People who may become your mentor. You never know where those opportunities are going to come from. And so I just recommend that if anyone can get a chance to, guys, please, kind of get out that comfort zone a little bit, volunteer if you can, become a part of a group, right? And become a little more social, maybe kind of venture out, talk to someone maybe you wouldn't talk to before, because I'm telling you guys, you never know where that person will end up. You never know where you will end up. You never know the kind of people that you can cross and how they can affect your life in the future. So I highly recommend that when you guys can do that, don't do what freshman through junior Carl did and was Mr. Cool Guy, right? Was, all right, school, I'm going, I'm out of here, And please, guys, I encourage you guys, I highly motivate you guys to please go out there and get involved if you guys can.
All right, so when I ended up first getting to General Motors, Carl, he was a contractor. So I was gonna say, kind of tell the people what's the difference between being a contractor and being an engineer. And, also on top of that, is there a knowledge gap between the two, would you say?
So actually, I think it all kind of comes down to your circumstances, right? So the GM, to be specific, they wanted 2 years of postgraduate professional experience, right, to be able to come into their program directly, right? If you didn't have that, there was 2 ways to enter into General Motors. There was the track program, which Andre's a part of, right? And he gets a really cool experience. He gets to rotate around, learn new positions. He gets to dip his toes in everything. Andre being the very social, the very open guy he is, right? He wants to learn a little bit of everything. So this was the perfect program for him, right? And then the other way is to become a contract engineer, right? For those of you guys who don't know what a contract engineer is there's a contract house, right? So think of almost like a temp agency, and what they do is they basically loan you out to the company, right? And so when that happens, the kind of work isn't very different, but there's a lot of differences because it's almost kind of like you're like the stepchild. I guess if that makes sense to you, right? Because you're doing the same work, but I don't directly work for GM, right? So being contract is not a bad thing. It's just a different thing, right? But I do know that usually if you go to a company to be contract, you bust your butt, right? You do what you can do. A lot of times if you're very open with the manager of the group you're a part of and you say, hey, these are my goals, this is what I want to work towards, a lot of times they'll set you up to where it's like, okay, do this for a year and a half, 2 years, right? And then once you get to that point, we'll love to bring you in, right? So a lot of times the contracting house is kind of just like more of like a trial run for you, right? To see like how will you do, because you don't have the 2 years, right? How will you do? And then as long as you come in, you do your best you can do, you work with the team, you do what you got to do. A lot of times they'll just bring you on over, right? So it's kind of just like that's a difference, right? So for Andre and I both, right? We kind of started at GM right out of college. So due to that, those two different paths, we kind of both took separate paths. But very luckily for us, we're going to basically end up at the same endpoint, which is awesome.
Got you. So kind of like what you also touched on, like with you being a contractor, would you say like coming into being a contractor versus coming into be an engineer, it was two totally different expectations? Would you say? Like I'm pretty sure like the workload is clearly heavier when it comes down to GM, with you being an engineer coming in. Will you say like it's that big of a gap or not really?
So it's actually funny because as a contracted engineer, right, I actually came in and I had the exact same workload, the exact same expectations as my direct, as they would call it, engineer counterpart, which actually helped out a lot, right? Because it already shows that you're already doing what they're doing, right? So it becomes then that obvious choice of, well, he's already doing what the direct engineers are doing, what are we waiting for, right? And so I know for a lot of people out there, the contracting opportunity is one that many of you may come across. I would say if that's what you need to do to get your foot in the door, guys, do it, right? Some companies don't offer, the early career program, as they would call it, right, where you're kind of starting off your career with them. But a lot of times I just say, get your foot in the door, do your best work you can do, right? Bust your butt, get in there, and just let your work talk for you. Because a lot of times they're going to see value in you, right? And when they see value in you, they're going to grab you and keep you.
All right, Carl. So what's your contact information so the people can stay in touch with you, bro?
All right, sweet guys. I'm always open, so please feel free to reach out if you ever want to talk about anything. I'm on Facebook, it's just Carl Chapman. On Instagram, it's KT Chapman. And on Snapchat, it's KChat. So please, guys, feel free to reach out. I love to hear from you guys. Thank you guys for taking the time to check this out.
And that concludes this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. It really do help my channel when it comes down to the YouTube algorithm. If you guys have any questions regarding anything, just hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on the gram at DreThePlug123. And then also go check out my other YouTube channel. This is actually my second channel. My first one was called ClassicCuts. I basically go in and give tutorials about all types of different haircuts. I actually show people how to do different type of things with the clippers that has never been done. And I pretty much go into detail as to why certain things happen. So definitely go check out that channel. Besides that, be on the lookout for my next content that's dropping. Be on the lookout for it because it's coming real soon. And I'm out.